Thank you for joining us today. I call the July 21st, 2021 meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission to order. Let's start with the approving of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The next item is to approve the minutes of the June 15th, 2021 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting?
So moved.
Minutes?
Second.
Sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, public comment. The next item is public comment. Those who wish to address the Arts and Culture Commission must use the sign-in sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity or personal attacks. So do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Over there. Yep, I think it's at the podium. So just as a reminder, if you could state your name.
There is no sign sheet.
Well,
Here he comes.
Look, he's bringing
we'll
a
bend
sheet.
the rules day one.
Hello, my name is Elytra McCann, and I work over at the Plains Art Museum. Sign this sheet for you. So first of all, thank you so much for having me this evening. I am here on behalf of our Lab Internship group. The Plains Art Museum has offered a paid summer internship focused on art science and the environment since 2014. Each year, the interns are met with complex conversations regarding the future of our pollinators, and they're asked to create a collaborative project using the knowledge they retained during their intensive week, which took place just last June. The interns look to engage with the community and share their knowledge that they've been given or that they've learned during that time. This year, the interns decided to create a pollinator path, which is like a scavenger hunt, but without the time constraint and the prize. This path will highlight around 10 spaces in our Fargo Moorhead community that highlight pollinators and indigenous plants either through natural features or intern-made work. As of right now, we are starting the path at the Plains Art Museum so we can answer any questions and play an intern-made video. We'll be ending at the Moorhead Public Library with a handmade paper installation to encourage participants to continue their education beyond the path. We have also spoken with the Yomkamp Center and Holly Hike Camp, who will be supporting an interactive soft sculpture of a bee. The interns have been consistent in wanting involvement with some of the local parks that may not see as much traffic throughout the year. With my attendance this evening, I'm hoping for collaboration in finding spaces we can highlight, specifically in the Fargo area, as I am from Moorhead, and our interns haven't necessarily explored past their local neighborhoods, as well as a space to install a 4-foot by 2-foot raised garden bed that would house native plants, ideally long-term, but at minimum for one growing season. And the pollinator box would need to be located in a consistently mowed area or a place of concrete. That way it's as beneficial as possible to pollinators that may be in that area and not able to find a food source or habitat. Due to the internship timeline, they are installing and launching their project July 29th of 2021. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
Can I make a motion just to extend the discussion a little bit with Elytra? Past our 3 minutes since we're running out of time. I don't want to cut her off because this is interesting.
You may continue.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So essentially what I'm asking is for your insight as established people that share goals within arts. So if you have ideas of places we could collaborate with, places for the pollinator box, areas that you think could be highlighted in our community, and then I can bring that to our interns.
Sounds good. So I guess I would say the first question is, does anyone want to volunteer? It seems like it's a pretty neat project.
Is this the kind of thing that might fall to a subcommittee to be able to continue this conversation? I'm not quite sure how to engage with it.
Well, I think the idea would be that we would talk with staff if there's somebody who has specific desire to engage, that we would coordinate through the staff level.
So a little insight on the request and what's going on is the internship, the Buzz Lab internship lasts through was it the 28th of July?
29th.
The 29th, so it concludes in a week or so. And so I think the program is looking to identify places that we could have as part of this path for the interns to go through within the community. So if there's anything that comes to mind within the group here that we could contribute to the program, or places to identify, I'm sorry.
The Sodbuster.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah.
Sodbuster. Scott, it's been planted, I believe, landscaped with prairie grasses, that type of thing, if I'm correct. There's also a temporary place where a bunch of trees were planted right by there, too. So Sodbuster would be one. And then, Nicole, what's the name of that little tiny park over by the fire station downtown?
Oli Tangen.
Yeah, Ole Tangen Park. They used to have I think there was some planting done in there, some kind of cool stuff that was done in there, but that's kind of a cool little spot.
And if I may, I might recommend that staff meet with you offline. And, between us and our Parks District and Public Works, we can kind of rattle off a number of sites. And so maybe tomorrow morning we can touch base, or if you want to stick around till the end of this meeting, we can touch base and exchange, kind of contact information. And if it's just a matter of, I guess the question I have is it a matter of just kind of getting it on the map, or do you need logistics on, kind of getting there? Like you said, the kind of the scavenger hunt and how far away, because the Fargo Project obviously is a site.
Sandbagger.
Yeah. And so there's lots of possibilities, if you will.
Later, just so you know, too, over at Moorhead State around the hummingbird sculpture, they did put in a pollinator garden around that.
That's great. Okay.
Oh, and I think there's a pollinator garden by the water treatment plant over on the east end of 13th Avenue South. There used to be. And there's also a pollinator garden in Moorhead by the police, where the police station, or what is it? I'm not sure. It's on 15th Avenue North. Those public buildings over there. There's a natural pollinator garden over there too.
Elytra, I'm wondering about making the connection between what your interns are doing and other arts organizations in the Fargo-Moorhead area. Because the internship is organized by the museum, it has a very strong agricultural component to it, but there is an art component to it as well. Would it be possible to think of locations that connect the two?
Yes, so we do have, I don't know the name of the studio space off the top of my head right now, but there is a local studio space over by Nicole's that is considering hosting one of the recycled material sculptures. And then, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Because I think they have Moorhead Library, Plains Art Museum, the local studio space, the Comp Center. Yeah.
The Rourke also has a pollinator garden.
Yes, that was one that I did propose to the interns, and they seemed to like it. They were just concerned that we had too much Moorhead presence, and they wanted to make sure that we had a Fargo presence, as the Plains Art Museum is located in Fargo, and that's primarily where they do work. So,
Thank you very much for the presentation. And I think if we think of other ideas throughout the meeting, we can certainly touch base afterwards and or through staff.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? I don't think so. So let's move on. The next item is for subcommittee updates. Would each of the subcommittee leaders like to give an update? Joe, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm just going to read right from here if it's okay.
You got it.
This is a guide. So the suggested goal, and John and Brad, please interject as you see fit here, to ensure the Call for Artists program is operational with consistency for broader local artist inclusion in either selection of work or creating work. This can be done through, number one, confirming outreach methods to notify artists. Number two, to review rubric of findings, metrics of selection. And number three, broaden participants and roster in community reviewers. And number four, understand barriers for access for award and implementation.
So did your subcommittee meet? I guess, are you guys all in agreement on this, or have you had a chance to kind of go through those proposed items?
We've met, I think, was it the first Wednesday of this month, and we had discussed this. And then some notes were shared with Nicole and of course with the group also. If I could have John or Brad kind of.
I'm not sure I have those notes with me, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't bring my notes. I apologize.
Okay.
I think one question I remember from our discussion that's probably worth bringing up was just related to a recent public art event that happened in Fargo or project that got finished, and we just wanted some clarification. Perhaps Nicole could help us with it. And that is, so that new Fargo mural that got painted by the Downtown Community Partnership, or was led by their organization, got us to kind of wondering, okay, like, what are the city ordinances exactly about who can paint what, where? Because I think it would be helpful for our committee to sort of understand, because also, if I'm not mistaken, the Park and Rec Department was the one that sponsored the, mural on the train tracks, right on Broadway. So all of a sudden you kind of go, okay, so what are the ordinances? Where can public art be put up and by whom? It would just seem like a good time to kind of touch base on that.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that at this point in time, or do you?
Maybe that's something something that we need to address at some point for some clarity.
Sure. Yeah, and it's kind of a long, and the reason I ask, it's kind of a long discussion. It's how you define public art. And the real simple answer is we don't have any ordinances. That was not publicly funded, nor was that on a publicly owned space. And so it was actually the story of the Greetings mural. It was a Downtown Neighborhood Association, not the Downtown Community Partnership, but the Neighborhood Association, who applied for a grant and got it, and they did it. I found out about it when it was written in the paper and posted on Facebook. So from a city perspective, we love it because zero public dollars, zero public involvement from a staff level. And so in terms of ordinances and guidance and policies, that would be probably a larger discussion to see if you feel like there's a need for that.
I think the question that probably pops to everybody's mind is like, there could be some quality control issues, and there certainly wasn't in this case. A great project, it was fantastic, but it just kind of, if there aren't any ordinances, I don't know, just brings up some questions.
Issues.
Yeah.
How does the city say no?
A larger conversation that I would say that goes on the list of things we should discuss.
Sounds good. Deb or anyone else on the neighborhood committee want to provide an update?
Sure. So when we met, we discussed the idea of somehow working with, well, we kind of settled on schools with this idea of having original art created that could then be put into the utility box program, and original art created by children would then be put on a utility box in the neighborhood that their school was in, let's say. So we started talking about that and how we could kind of get our arms around it. The program that we talked about before is basically set up so the art is existing, you pay, we offer a grant for $1,000. Let's say a neighborhood association applies for the $1,000, and then they can just choose the art that's already in the catalog and have that put on a utility box. What we came to realize is that the $1,000 probably isn't sufficient to have an original piece created by children. So this is the part Ann doesn't know about, I'm sorry. But when I went and talked to the executive level, what we realized is that we were probably going at this a little bit cart before the horse. And so where we left it is, you'll all remember that we were talking about having liaisons with Fargo Parks, Fargo Public Schools. And where the staff is going to reach out to Fargo Public Schools and talk to them about, if we were to do something like this, what do you need? So that we can work at it from that direction, rather than saying, we're gonna give you this amount of money and this is what we want you to do with it. So we're gonna say, are you willing, and how much does it cost? And then we'll kind of go from that. So staff was gonna reach out to contact, I think, Fargo Public Schools, because that seemed like the most logical place to start. So we're, I think, moving ahead. Haven't heard any different on that. And we also are going to hear from Nicole later about something that's going to be more important to the whole neighborhood thing, and that Kresge grant. So when she tells us about that, I think we're probably going to see a lot more opportunity for what we want to do. So,
Thanks, Deb.
yeah.
I will start at least the discussion on the development subcommittee. I have reached out to 3 different developers. 2 of them, again, rescheduled. The 4th of July week was probably not the best week to try and think that they would have a lot of flex in their schedule. But I do have one of the 3 rescheduled for next week. What I was able to do, though, is have 3 small conversations with each of the development teams that I had reached out to. There's actually a lot of excitement about this discussion. I kind of went into it honestly thinking I might have to kind of pull them along and maybe even kind of prod my way in. And the initial response has been incredibly encouraging. So I'm excited to have these conversations. I told Nicole, it embarrasses me that we haven't had them yet, but it will happen quickly. Monica, is there anything you want to add? Or even Denise as well. I know we're kind of throwing you in. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. No, we revisited as a subcommittee that draft communication plan, and then had some follow-up meetings with Nicole and staff about reaching out as far as implementation and execution of pieces. So we're working on a meeting to meet with staff just specific to that topic. But I think that's really my only update.
I have, similarly to Tracy's, meetings scheduled with our local artists to gain feedback on how a potential collaboration with a developer would be beneficial to an artist, and what the artist would need to make that collaboration work for them, so that it's not just good for one side, one party.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for that. The next item is to discuss a potential new meeting time for future ACC meetings.
And Chair, if I may, real quick, sorry to interrupt. One thing that I was just going to suggest is, so you'll notice in your packet, as Joe referenced, these are suggested goals that I just drafted based on feedback I've heard from meeting notes and individuals reaching out to me. What I would ask in your, as you meet through July and August, that you kind of affirm if this is the right verbiage and focus area for you, and if you'd like to have more discussions on that. My goal and my need, I should say, is to couple this in with 10 other boards and commissions. So I ascertain and affirm our work plan that the city commission would ultimately vote on to basically authorize the work to continue. And so it's that balance between that governance oversight and kind of community activity building. And so, anyway, so if this is in the wrong direction, these are just draft languaging. And if it's not what you're seeing, just mark it up, email me and reach out, and we'll kind of get these turned into formal action with the goal, maybe action, like a vote and an action kind of means a lot in that regard. So that's where we're heading.
Thank you. Sorry for jumping ahead. I'm just so excited to get on to the next item. So now we'll talk about the potential new meeting time for future ACC meetings. Any discussion on this? You know that there was a poll sent out and it was a little weighted more towards the 4 o'clock time period. I do know, just based on discussions, that I think it would be easier for the city if we did keep it at the 5 o'clock. But I guess we just wanted to have more, see if there was more discussion on it. Is there strong feelings one way or the other?
I feel strongly for 5 o'clock.
Okay.
I appreciate the staff recommendation to maintain the time for the consistency of all other meetings, even though I voted for a certain other time. I would be willing to maintain 5 p.m.
Okay. Anyone else? I know I can certainly speak for myself as well, that 5 o'clock is certainly easier. Being the workday goes until 5, I miss less of the work day prior to that. Yeah. Any strong feelings on 4? Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, no, I was just gonna reflect what you said as well. Wednesdays, where I'm at, Wednesdays are sort of the meeting days, and this one just kind of flows right into the last meeting. So if we move this up an hour, it sort of affects my workday as well. So I would be in favor of the 5 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to, or Nicole, do we need to carry a motion for just keeping it the same, right? Okay. All right, perfect. Moving on. The next item is to review our bylaws. If we are choosing to keep the meeting at 5, then we would need to amend the bylaws to read that the meeting is at 5 o'clock. So can I get a motion to amend the bylaws to read meeting starting at 5 p.m.?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, the next item is staff updates. So you can see the staff report in your packet. Planning stuff. Let's see if Nicole's ready.
For this evening, for the staff updates, a little unique where we actually have some action items trying to build in there. And the first one is related to seeking some technical support. I believe I've spoken a little bit to the capacity committee just to kind of feel them out a little bit on if this is something that could be supported, or just to kind of affirm if staff is looking at this the right way. And it's not uncommon for staff to reach out to companies like engineering companies when we have a series of activities, and we call them master services agreements. And those master services agreements are broken out into tasks. And so then when we work with, say, a company with billable hours, then we're billing those hours according to different tasks. And since I was starting to accrue a little bit of need based on Maggie and Megan both no longer at the city of Fargo and not wanting to disrupt our operations, my usual next step is thinking about consultants, and the Arts Partnership was the consultant I immediately thought of. And there's probably other people in our community, but I believe the Arts Partnership warrants the need to go what I would call a sole source contract. The city of Fargo will do sole source contract when we believe that there the organization is unique to the subject matter, and going out for bid is just going to not get us the result that we are hoping for. And the way a sole source contract is authorized at the city is it based on a certain dollar amount. It gets capped at different dollar amounts, and based on, I think less than, I'm going to go off memory here, less than 25,000, it goes to the finance committee, and more than 25,000, it goes to on a city commission for authorization. I'm not sure exactly where the cost is going to be for the arts partnership, so I'm waiting on affirming your support tonight. Assuming I get support tonight, then I would work further with the arts partnership to get a proposal more fully fleshed out, and then I would take that to the finance committee for their execution, and then next steps accordingly. The three tasks I'm seeing with need for the arts partnership. One is related to an action you took a few months ago where the Downtown Community Partnership and the Arts Partnership came in front of you with an art wrap program for utility boxes. And then a subsequent discussion we had at the Arts Commission is the need to kind of advertise and promote this at the neighborhood level so that people are aware that this is something that they could do. And we have organizations in our community, the Neighborhood Association is one of them, that I think outreach to them directly is going to make a whole lot of sense. Probably some flyers, marketing, advertising is going to make a whole lot of sense. That all costs money. And so what I would like to do is kind of equip DCP and TAP to kind of get their communication pieces a little bit more robust, to kind of take that burden from staff to kind of promote that activity at the neighborhood level. And with guidance and oversight from staff, we would seek that support. The second item that I have is related to curating inside City Hall and other city buildings. Those that have been on the Arts and Culture Commission will remember we had some curating in the old City Hall up by the mayor's office in the Skyway. And at that point in time, we did an RFP for curators, and I think we had 3 submittals. Tanya Blanich was the selected proposer, and we contracted directly with her to curate a number of different rotating art exhibits for a couple of years. Since then, the Arts Partnership has born the Artworks program, which is a curating program that goes to many different buildings throughout the community, including the airport. And so what we would like to do is, since they've got a kind of a robust program, is launch onto that program that's already in existence and include the City Hall as one of those locations. The benefit of that I see is that we take advantage of the marketing and the communications and the write-ups, the special attention to artists that the Arts Partnership already does, and we just kind of add to that pool and provide one more space for those rotating exhibits. So I see that being kind of a holistic program that's beneficial and included in community overall. I think West Fargo City Hall participates in this as well. In fact, I think when I saw a promotional Facebook post on that, I'm like, hey, how come we're not doing that? And then the third item is given the detail work that the capacity subcommittee would like to do in kind of rebuilding, not rebuilding, but kind of refresh and fine tune our public arts, our Call for Artists program. And it'd be really great to get some fresh eyes on some of the steps we do and then have operationalized over the years. And so maybe just as a real quick touch point on the Call for Artists program, we do have a roster of selection members. It's been a couple years since we've done a call, but basically we've done some press releases, a call. People can register to be on the selection committee. We have a pool of members to sit on that selection committee. And it's kind of a lottery as those members get selected for when we have a review committee. So we have an outside committee basically select applications when we have a call for artists. We also have a pretty robust directory where we broadcast advertising for call for artists. But it'd be nice to, and then we've got a set program where we do a Q&A session, a roundtable session. We do a panel with city employees to kind of provide question and answer for committee member or for artists as they kind of procure their idea in their head on what kind of obstacles they may oversee. And so, but it'd be nice to go through those program steps with the capacity subcommittee to just do a quick review to see if those make sense, any tweaks needed. And it would be really great if we could share that knowledge with the Arts Partnership at the same time. Tanya on the committee, or on the Arts Partnership, has a lot of experience with the City of New York and other jurisdictions that have done Call for Artists programs, so it'd be great to get her expertise. And so with that, I'm asking for your support to enter into a master service agreement with the Arts Partnership on these 3 different tasks. Again, I don't know what the exact proposal will be, but as we get that, then I can only go to Finance Committee once a month, so it's kind of lining up all these deadlines consecutively. So be glad to answer any questions and hear any concerns or comments, and I guess we can take these one at a time.
Are there any questions, guys?
I have a question.
Sure.
Just in terms of the duration of the contract, what would that look like? Would it be in place for a year, for 5 years?
Probably just per the task, until the task gets done, then we'd look at that. So I'm guessing it's a good question, but I'm thinking through the end of this year, 22 or 21. We're in year 21, and so probably to the end of this year. I'm thinking, if necessary, we need to go into 22 to finish some of these tasks, but it'll just kind of depend on the project itself.
Any other questions? I suggest a motion of, to approve staff seeking sole source contract with the Arts Partnership, subject to the Finance Committee and City Commission's final approval. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you. The next item, and I'm going to turn it over to John Offit here in a minute, but John was approached by Commissioner Strand and Mayor Mahoney as part of a Arts for Holidays program. You'll see a letter in your packet along with a kind of starting to get some of the promotional materials like logos. And John, do you want to talk about it from here, or do you want me to do an intro?
There's not a lot to talk about at this point. Commissioner Strand and Mayor Mahoney offered the arts community this civic. Rob Sobolik asked that we not do that. So it's going to the city commission for approval.
So it's not,
The money doesn't come from us. The money's going to come from the city commission.
oh, yes. Yeah.
But it gets funneled through the
Yeah.
Arts and Culture Commission, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so in summary, I think there's 2 parts of this. One is the Arts and Culture Commission in partnership with the FMVA and the Civic Center, in partnership with basically this outside entity to operate an Arts for the Holidays program. And it's a simple budgetary item. In my mind, we do events all the time at the Civic where it's kind of some budgetary transfer. So Rob Sobolik, I haven't had a chance to talk with Rob. He might not understand that aspect of it, and maybe received a question firsthand off of Commissioner Strand, I'm guessing, or Bruce, perhaps.
John?
Nope, it was Rob. He didn't want the city to give the arts community the civic for free.
Correct. Yeah, and so.
So there will be normal billing in it.
Yep. And that's pretty traditional.
I know, John, you had a little concern about, having enough support to organize and run this event, and it looks like those arts organizations are just doing it with volunteers. You have concerns about that, or?
I think it's a pretty small project, actually, for what it's going to require as far as hands-on. Mostly it'll be taken care of by the staff of the Civic.
Okay.
Okay.
That they'll charge us for.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a question. I was wondering about what sort of, are the artists being given, like, can people put in for a booth at no charge, or are artists being charged a fee to participate in this in addition to us paying to use the space?
The artists are being charged a fee to participate. The arts organizations are being charged a fee to have a table in the perimeter of the space. It's certainly not a to make money endeavor. Even with city funding, it's going to be a break-even endeavor.
Do we know what level of, I guess, booth charges are going to be needed to make it viable?
Right now, the committee's looking at $100.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there's anything that should be done to look to minimize or offer discounts, given that the arts community has been hit pretty hard by COVID, and these are individuals trying to potentially make money and profit.
And that's why we're producing the event, is so they have a market.
Okay, and you don't see the booth fee as a deterrent to anybody involved or interested?
I do not.
Okay.
Most booth fees are between $200 and $800. I think $100 is incredibly cheap. Especially with the kind of marketing that the city and TAP and FMV are able to bring to this.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay, so I will make a motion to approve staff seeking partnerships with the FMVA and the Civic Center for Collaboration on Arts for the holidays on December 11th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Opposed, same sign? Oh, sorry, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign? The motion's carried. All right, item C.
I wanted to take a few minutes just to, for the last item, for the Kresge project. This is, members of our Arts and Culture Commission that have been on for a while have heard me talk about the Fargo Project before and given a little overview on creative placemaking, and I might have even given an overview on this Kresge grant we received about 4 to 5 years ago. And we were renewed a grant from the Kresge Foundation in partnership with the work that the city of Fargo is doing. And we have about, supposed to be done in 2020, that happened. And so now we're here today with a deadline on implementing a second phase of the Kresge project. I'm not too worried about the deadline, only the fact that we have one is probably the most important part of it. And in talking to the executive committee, they thought, I was kind of stressing out a little bit at the executive committee, and they thought this might be a good opportunity to do a little presentation on what this is all about and what we're starting to queue up as a project. And first, a little bit about creative placemaking for those in the public that might be watching this. We're blessed in our region to have several kind of pretty cool projects in the Midwest. One of my favorite is the Worm Farm Institute in Wisconsin. And again, it's really a way to bring economic development, cross-sector partnerships to highlight the agriculture community in this part of Wisconsin. The Fargo Project's been around now for about 10 years. We ended up being kind of accidentally on the cusp of this creative placemaking, social engagement type of arts field. And the Worm Farm Institute has been one of our models, as well as the Lanesboro Arts Minnesota has been one of our models. And there's lots of literature about these two programs. I just wanted to kind of highlight those as reference. And really, it's this idea of cross-sector partnerships where you're taking a community problem as identified by the community in partnership with artists and municipality to co-create solutions. Creative problem solving is probably the easiest way to think about it. The kind of important part about these types of projects is that they have these creative visions or these principles that guide decision-making. So it kind of disrupts the maybe typical way of thinking, especially in a bureaucratic sense of municipalities. And so holding these visions high is part of the project team's goals. In the Fargo project, this is an image. Dwight Mickelson is a local artist off to the right, and this is a natural play area right after the logs got installed at the Fargo project that was co-created between a fifth grade in West Fargo, Dwight Mickelson, and a local landscape architect and contractor to install this location, this facility. And the idea, the guiding principles for us and the Fargo project that was co-created with community is that it's community-driven. It builds capacity amongst the community as well as the artists. It connects a bunch of different needs. And we have met hundreds of partners, and that it's multidisciplinary. So those were some of our founding principles, if you will, of the Fargo project. The other kind of lesson learned, if you will, this is Michael Strand and Dwight Mickelson working. This is back in 2012 with about 200 community members co-creating this space in the stormwater basin as we kind of redo our stormwater ponds. And the point of involving artists early in the co-creation, not predefining the problem, right, but working with community and artists to define the problem collectively. And so I think Michael Strand coined the term, the we design event, and it's the concept of building with and not for. So we are engaging and empowering at the community-based level. So the point is that we're not, city staff sitting there as architects, landscape architects, engineers, defining the problem and doing our construction documents. We're doing this in a participatory kind of way. So fast forward to, here's an image of one of the installations, the Sound Garden at the Fargo project. And we had a pretty robust communications team as part of this who was able to capture photos as beautiful as this one, which has gotten a lot of public national attention. I'm going to send you some guides that if you want to be more involved in this project, is going to become required reading for you. So these are national guides that the Fargo Project in the city has been advisory on at a national level. Two that I'm really proud of. One is called Municipal Artist Partnerships, and it's all about readying the artist and readying the municipality so they can have successful partnerships together. And the other is how to do more of the audiences for local government managers, how to create projects so that they have the freedom and flexibility that is required. The Fargo project had the luxury, and Tracy's gonna laugh, as an architect, had the luxury of no time commitment and no budget. And so the reality of that, as any project manager would say, is pretty unrealistic. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how to build that scaffolding when you do have those limitations in a bureaucratic kind of way. Municipality, again, we're here to steward public tax dollars. How do you build that in structurally, organizationally, and still keep those project principles alive? So that is the test, and anybody that can crack that nut could probably get a PhD in that. And so, so this is what makes our work different than, say, a mural on the side of a private building. And this is the goal and the work that we, the staff, are trying to drive forward in our day-to-day operations through the Arts and Culture Commission and through the work we do. So where I was kind of starting to have a little stressful conversation with the executive committee is how do we get focused collectively on this so I can empower you to be our champions for this kind of work in the community, and how I can empower you to be our champions for this kind of work with our elected officials, any future officials, and at a national level. Because we have the national glimpse, we have the national attention, we don't have the local attention. And so that is what I'm trying to gain forward so we can build that capacity moving forward. So we have an opportunity. These are all the publications moving forward. Lots of people are finding us thanks to really great public communications that I credit Reach Partners for, and a local artist with Amu Productions, who is just a fantastic photographer and really good writing. And so that's what gets the national attention. So what are we trying to do moving forward before spring of 2022 is Fargo Project Phase 2 is basically is in partnership with the Human Relations Commission and in partnership with many other organizations, project called The Art of Belonging. And it's about building that scaffolding to see change agents in our neighborhoods. So those that were part of the core neighborhood plan will know what this work is about. It's really taking the core neighborhood plan and the public arts master plan and pushing those together to get impact in our neighborhoods. So like Deb was saying with the neighborhoods committee, this is really vital, important work, and we need your help. What does this look like in terms of working with artists? We're looking for artists that want to work in multidisciplinary form, whether it's sound, visual, performance. How do you work with multiple departments? So we now, through the Fargo Project, have our partners in the police department, we have our partners in the public health, we have our partners in engineering. And so now it's about how do we work together to make a project get built. And it's community driven. So we don't come with the problem. The problems have already been identified in our core neighborhood plan. And so now how do we take that and flesh that through further? And probably the most important thing, the capacity subcommittee got to listen to me have a little panic attack one day. And it's really about finding our way together. And that requires us to show up in ways to listen, to be flexible, and there's a ton of uncertainty. And so we have funds available to partner with artists, and we have funds available to make things, and we have funds available to contribute. We've already, about 4 years ago, hired Reach Partners to help us with project management. We're building a national advisory team to help us gauge this way with the American for the Arts, or no, wrong group, Art Place America retired last December. Some of those folks are kind of free agents and they make themselves available for us to ask questions. And they're networking with us with some folks around the country. But this kind of work needs midwifing and shepherding. And I'm a planning director now. Maybe one day might retire. And so how do you build this gap? Megan's now the planning director and doing this work in West Fargo. And so how do we build this into our community so it can sustain? And that's what the Kresge Foundation is granting us money to do. So I don't have a motion for you today. It's more advisory for you and for you to kind of think about in your committees, how would you want to be involved in this? What interest do you have in this, and how deep of a dive do you want to do with staff and the community on this, and go through the training and work with us? And there's lots of different ways. There's the governance way, the large oversight policy way, there's the neighborhood meeting way, there's the advisory way, and then there's the deep dive, being at the city tables with staff as we crunch along. And so there's a lot of different ways. we welcome all, and you're kind of my first stop as I start to shop this around places. So be glad to answer any questions.
Madam Chair, Nicole, can I ask? Yes, I do. So when you think about this, what do you think the ideal or the priority role would be for this commission?
I think to learn the true magic, and I don't want to sound that demeaning because you probably already have it, but to learn the true magic of creative placemaking. There's a special sauce that's community driven that's sometimes really hard to describe, and you can only learn it by experiencing it. And I've had personal transformation, city engineers have had personal transformation, and so for you to have that experience would be thrilling for me. And what happened with the Fargo Project is it started before the Arts and Culture Commission existed. And it started, we've been working on it since 2008, and it wasn't until 2012 that we broke ground. And so there was 4 years of listening, learning, building capacity with community before we got there. Part of that project had 5 local artists working with really famous ecological artists who's now passed away. The 5 local artists, 3 are still here in our community. We met with 2 of them last week just to explore together. There's a lot of trauma along the way as we learn in community, and so we were seeking if they had interest to engage and help teach the teachers kind of attitude as well.
Thank you.
What sort of commitment do you think this would be as we consider potentially getting involved as individuals?
I think it could really be customized, and so, I think it's a little bit of, for me, and I'm glad to sit down and have coffee with anyone, and Reach Partners is available for, sitting down and having coffee with anyone too about this. And I think we would take as much or as little as you can give, and I think, I think we would take as much or as little as you can give. Yeah.
Thank you.
This is exciting. I just think this is an incredible opportunity, and it's, wow. And I will say, any project that doesn't have a schedule or a budget is actually the hardest project to ever do. Other comments or questions?
And maybe a little bit more concrete what this could look like. So we're trying to put some scope and scale around this a little bit. So we have a little bit of loose boundaries, and we're in that place of how do we define success for the Kresge Foundation. And what we're finding when working with these national organizations, there's success as it means for them, and then there's success as it means for our community, and how do you balance those? And I think for us, it might look like, first finding those community members who are engaged and want to do something in their neighborhood, and then channeling that energy with artists who want to work in that way. And so so the first order of business, if you will, is to find, it's kind of a matchmaking, if you will, matchmaking with artists in community or neighborhood. And we obviously can't, so the core neighborhood plan worked with 9 neighborhoods. If we worked with 9 teams, that would be kind of a mess. And so for everybody involved. And so I think it's going to be, how do we kind of find those that are ready? There's probably different stage of readiness. Sure. And then how do we grow this into a program that's kind of can get integrated? This also kind of connects to the call for artists, if you will. Mm-hmm. And if you think about, kind of tweaking some of that call for artists, ways of asking for ideas or interest or openings for, involvement. And one of the things that was super exciting this last round of call for artists, so this would have been 2019, is 4 of the applications came from other city departments who had already partnered with an artist who had already brought this forward. And so that was to us was like the most exciting, right? And so how do you find those avenues? And I think this starts to look a little bit, in my mind, as an artist in residency program. If we were to kind of shoot way out there, how does that start to build as a priority? So it's exciting in many different ways.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I mean, my reaction is this really could be a differentiator for Fargo, Moorhead, and I mean, the surrounding area actually, so.
Amen.
But for Fargo, for sure, if we get this right, you know.
And the state, I should say, this is be a good time to call attention to what the state's doing. The North Dakota Council for Arts is doing a really cool creative placemaking for all the regions in the state. And likewise, they're doing a pretty cool partnership with the NEA. And it'd be fun to invite Kim Kaneko or someone from the team to talk about that at some point.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Great.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Nicole. All right, do we have any other questions or items regarding the staff report? Ready to move on? Is there any other business? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.